distinguished guests and colleagues, thank you all for joining us for the 22nd edition of the World Sustainable Development Summit, which is an independently convened event which strives to drive ambition and action on sustainable development and climate solutions. Before we commence the session today, a brief safety announcement during the event here at the Stein Auditorium. TERI is a health, safety, and environment certified organization. In case of any untoward incident like fire, evacuation is required. You are required to exit from this auditorium through the fire exit gates nearest to you. And please do not panic. There are 7 exit gates for this auditorium, 4 on the ground floor, right, left, and 2 main entrances. There is 1 exit on the stage and 2 exits on the balcony, which are also the entrances to the balcony. In the case of fire, fire marshals will be taking position in the aisles and exit gates to help you evacuate. Namaste and hello. My name is Shaili Kedia, and as a curator of the summit on behalf of the organizing team, I would like to communicate that it is indeed a joyous moment for all of us that such a great lineup of dignitaries and world leaders have come together for the inaugural session titled Visionary Leadership for Mainstreaming Sustainable Development and Climate Resilience at the World Sustainable Development Summit. As we proceed further, it is my great privilege to host all of you on behalf of the TERI family. So to begin with, we will start with a traditional practice, which is lighting the lamp. Requesting all the dignitaries to please proceed and light the lamp.
विनाशाय दीपज्योतिर्नमोस्तुते दीपज्योतिर्नमोस्तुते शुभं कुरु त्वं कल्याणम् आरोग्यं धनसम्पदः
I would now like to request Mr. Nitin Desai, Chairman, the Energy and Resources Institute, to please deliver the welcome address. The floor is yours, Mr. Desai.
Thank you very much. Let me first welcome everybody to this 22nd session of the World Sustainable Development Summit, which was started by TERI under the leadership of Dr. Rajendra Pachauri about 21 years ago. I take particular pleasure in welcoming the presence here of His Excellency Bharat Jagdev, the Vice President of Guyana, Honorable Minister Bhupendra Yadav, Minister for, amongst other things, of Environment, but is also Minister for Labour, etc., and His Excellency Sultan Al Jaber, who will be heading the meeting of the COP28 in United Arab Republic. I also welcome Mr. Shailesh Nayak, who is a colleague in the TERI board, and of course the Director General of TERI, Dhawan. This is a summit on sustainable development. And as somebody told you, I was heavily involved in promoting that idea as part of the global policy dialogue. And at that time, when we said sustainable development, We meant connecting environment and development, getting people who thought environment was most important to talk to the people who thought development, particularly for poverty reduction, was most important. In many ways, this link between the two has to be more specific. And there are two that I would mention. One is the link between conserving resources and promoting sustainable livelihoods. You cannot protect a forest if you ignore the livelihood of the people who depend on the product of forests for their livelihood. But you cannot protect the livelihood of those people unless you protect the forest. This is one important dimension of the link between environment and development, which is an important component of sustainable development. But increasingly, there's a second link which is becoming important. And that's the link between sustainable consumption and sustainable production. So far, much of our global discussions have tended to focus on sustainable production. In fact, when we were doing the Rio conference, of which I was the Deputy Secretary General, the then US President said, the American way of life is not up for negotiation. But very happily, this has changed. Our Prime Minister has presented the whole idea of having a global agreement on lifestyles for environment and made that into a major program. And I was very happy to hear the people who spoke today more or less endorsing the idea that lifestyle for environment has to become an important component of global dialogue on sustainable development. Many things have improved since the days I was involved in it 30 years ago. I would say, for instance, greater awareness amongst people, the greater commitment to this from corporations, research institutions, and non-governmental organizations. So many of them are there linked across national boundaries. What is missing is the link, horizontal links between institutions at the government level, at the international level. And power still rests with the institutions for whom sustainability is not the primary goal. And I hope that one of the challenges that we will face is to make that connection. So with this hope of what the WSDS can promote, what India's leadership of the G20 this year can promote, let me once again welcome all of you to this meeting, and we look forward to what our distinguished guests have to tell us. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Desai. We look up to your guidance and encouragement always. May I now invite Shri Bhupendra Yadav, Honorable Minister of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, to deliver the opening address. The floor is yours, Minister Yadav.
His Excellency Dr. Bharat Jagdev, Vice President, Republic of Guyana, His Excellency Dr. Sultan Al Jaber, Special Envoy on Climate Change and COP28 President-designate UAE, Mr. Nitin Desai, Chairman TERI, Mrs. Vibha Dhawan, Director General TERI, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon to one and all. It gives me pleasure to address this august gathering at the inaugural session of 22nd edition of World Sustainable Development Summit, the flagship event of TERI, which I had a good fortune to attend last year as well. I am happy to note, based on continuing last year's theme and discussion, the summit this year is premised on mainstreaming sustainable development and climate resilience for collective action, which I strongly feel can come at no better time when India assumed the G20 presidency. I am very happy that our COP28 designated president is here, and we feel that the climate action which is taken in COP, it will go progressively in the presidency of our Honorable President. Friends, at a time when the world is tackling the issue pertaining to climate action, environmental protection, and sustainable development it is under the visionary leadership of Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi ji that India is emerging as an inspiration for countries across the globe, particularly on the fact that how economic development and conservation of environment can go hand in hand. Let me elaborate on that by first sharing of a good news with you all that the second batch of cheetah from South Africa were successfully introduced in Kuno National Park in Madhya Pradesh just 4 days ago on 18th February 2023. The vision of our Honorable Prime Minister of correcting the ecological wrong into ecological harmony is taking shape by being reflected on grassroots, where successful implementation of Project Cheetah is examples among many. Ladies and gentlemen, combating climate change, biodiversity loss, and land degradation transcend all political boundaries and hence a shared global challenge. Our multiple occasions, both at domestic and international stage, through evidence-based policy making and implementation, India has demonstrated that it has never been a part of problem, but it's contributing significantly to become a part of solution. The Union Budget 23-24 presented in Parliament earlier this month lays down the vision for green growth across multiple sectors, with underlying through being that all future growth in the country has to essentially be green, with the concept of green growth being a priority area in the Union Budget. It validates the fact that how sustainable development has been mainstreamed in Indian policy making process through visionary approach. India has already submitted its long-term low-emission development strategy document at COP27 in Sharm el-Sheikh, which is premised on two major pillars of climate justice and sustainable lifestyle alongside principle of CBDR-RC. With this, India has joined list of 58 countries who have submitted their new updated long-term low-carbon development strategy. Friends, not only at domestic level, but at international platform, particularly focusing on climate resilience, India has been turned out to be helpful by providing value additional inputs, especially to small island developing nations who are particularly vulnerable to rising sea levels. India has created and being nurturing the CDRI for coalition resilient infrastructure. It has been making concerned effort to engage various stakeholders and individuals to promote innovation and resilience in infrastructure. One such initiative is the DRI Connect, which will be a web-based platform for stakeholders engaged in infrastructure sector. The platform is advised to harness collective intelligence of coalition membership toward creation of new knowledge and actionable solutions to address challenges in resilient infrastructure and foster an environment to action-based learning and innovation on disaster resilience infrastructure. Building upon the announcement made at COP26 in the presence of Honorable Prime Minister, IRIS, or Infrastructure for Resilient Island State as a part of CDRI, has been in achieving sustainable development through a systematic approach to resilient, sustainable, and inclusive infrastructure for small island developing countries. The Voice of Global South Summit launched by Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi ji, wherein countries of Global South found a platform to discuss the pressing concern of developing world, was yet another testimony of India's leadership, especially becoming the leading voice for Global South. The summit was a big success and saw participation of 134 countries distributed across 10 sessions. Let me come to the other aspect of sub-theme of the session, which focuses on the mainstreaming sustainable development in our national development trajectory. Ladies and gentlemen, with India taking over the G20 presidency, the discourse around sustainable development, especially in the UN critical decade of action, has caught the global attention. Living in harmony with nature has been traditionally in our ethos, and the same has been reflected by the mantra of life or lifestyle for environment coined by Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi ji. The mantra, which focuses on nudging individual behavior toward leading a sustainable lifestyle, has received attention and appreciation by world leaders and leading experts across the globe and has been included in cover decision text of Sharm el-Sheikh implementation plan as well as at COP27. One world mass movement, lifestyle for environment, to the global community, which has been reflected in our updated NDCs, is now significant in propagating a healthy and sustainable way of living based on tradition and value of conservation and moderation, which essentially has SDG 12 at its core on sustainable production and consumption. Friends, one of the key aspects in enabling sustainable development, circular economy, offers a new paradigm that emphasizes on the need to take a comprehensive view of products and processes. This leads to sustainable growth, which is the key to an Atmanirbhar Bharat. The government has been actively formulating policies and promoting projects to drive the country toward a circular economy. It already notified various rules, such as plastic waste management rules, e-waste management rules, construction and demolition waste management rules, metals recycling policy, etc. in this regard. The first Environment and Climate Sustainability Working Group meeting in G20, which was concluded in Bangalore few days ago, saw extensive deliberation on topic which had a sustainable development and climate resilience at its heart. The topic discussed during the 3-day discussion were: first, arresting land degradation, accelerating ecosystem restoration, and enriching biodiversity; second, promoting sustainable and climate resilient blue economy; third, encouraging resource efficiency and circular economy. Apart from the given topics, delegates from G20 countries also deliberated on accelerating climate actions, science and gaps and role of mission life in further conservation of environment. Ladies and gentlemen, despite being the fastest growing economy in the world, India is taking great strides at democratic and international level in tackling the planetary crisis in form of climate change, biodiversity loss and pollution. As India nears the golden jubilee of Tiger Project, since last World Sustainable Development Summit, India under the able leadership of Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi ji has got 75 Ramsar wetland site, 33 elephant reserve, 53 tiger reserve, 12 blue flag beaches, successfully implemented single-use plastic ban, updated its NDCs, successfully reintroduced cheetahs from 2 countries, and demonstrated and bold leadership at COP27 in Sharm el-Sheikh and CBD COP15 in Montreal. It is example like such which testifies the fact that India's development trajectory and policy-making process has mainstream sustainable development and climate resilience at its core. The World Sustainable Development Summit for last 2 decades has been successful in engaging all the stakeholders from public and private sector of life and has hence been forerunner in deliberating on subject of sustainable development. I would like to wish this summit all the success and would like to conclude by quoting our Honorable Prime Minister, who has very effectively summarized the idea of sustainable development. I quote, "Equitable energy access to the poor has been a cornerstone of our environmental policy. Indians have always lived in harmony with nature. Our culture, rituals, daily practices, and numerous harvest festivals demonstrate our strong bonds with the nature. Reduce, reuse, recycle, recover, redesign, and remanufacture have been part of India's culture ethos. India will continue to act for climate resilient policy and practices as we have always done." Thank you very much.
Thank you, Minister Yadav. We greatly value your encouraging presence and to the nodal support by the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. I now have the pleasure to invite His Excellency Dr. Bharat Jagdeo, Vice President, Republic of Guyana, to deliver the inaugural address. Your Excellency, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, colleagues on stage, ladies and gentlemen. At the risk of sounding disjointed, since I spoke twice today already, I'm going to just return to some of the themes that I spoke on this morning. But before I do so, I want to say how excited we should be to have in the room two persons who may be leading a lot of the efforts that we're talking about here today in very important bodies. We have Sultan Al-Jaber, who will be heading the COP negotiations, and we have Minister Yadav, who now will play a crucial role in the G20 leadership, India's leadership in the G20. Minister Yadav, I want to thank you for remembering small islands, island developing states, because often they do not factor into the global scheme of things, and they never have a champion in the bodies that matter. So I'm hoping that, given the importance of these two persons here, that we can urge them to have a number of things addressed. Not the details of what should be addressed, but basically the principles in these two important bodies, upcoming bodies. First is the issue that I spoke of this morning. Return to the principle of equity and justice in not just climate issues, but on sustainable development. Many developing countries will never achieve sustainable development goals unless they have the financing to do that. Secondly, the question of balance, that we need balance in the discussions that take place at these various bodies if we're going to find lasting solutions. So the last COP, you had two extremes. You had the oil and gas companies coming there and saying, oh, we don't want to stop we will not stop producing oil and gas. We believe that carbon capture, utilization, and storage could be the technology of the future that would allow us to trap the CO2 emissions. Then on the other extreme, you have a group that said you have to stop production of oil and keep everything in the ground. I suspect the answer lies in all of this. We need to reduce the production of fossil fuel. We need carbon capture, utilization, and storage. And we need a mass transit into renewable energy. It is these three combined action on all three fronts that would deliver lasting solutions. But often the debate is between the extremes, and sometimes it clouds the search for solutions. So balance is crucial, balancing extreme interests. That's very important. And then, as I mentioned, the small countries. Now, the small countries do not need only climate finance. They need a reform of the global financial system for them to achieve sustainable development. We're dealing with the two issues separately, sustainable development and climate resilience in the team, but they are interlinked. What do I mean? Most of the countries, say in the Caribbean, are fiscally stressed. They have one sector, maybe tourism, that brings in all their wealth, so they're extremely vulnerable. And they're debt stressed too. A lot of them are using 75% of their revenue to service debt. So for them, unless those issues, all of those issues are addressed now by some of the multilateral agencies, they will never be able to have a sustainable medium-term economic framework, leaving out, much less addressing or having the resources to address the catastrophic damage of weather-related events that come upon them. Almost every season you have hurricane. So the search for sustainability for those countries have to include all of these options. We have to have a contingent line of credit from the multilateral financial institutions that they can draw down on if there is a hurricane immediately, for them to work their way out of the fiscal situation. They have to be able to expand their economy and be able to trade, because their growth can't be driven by internal demand. And they need a favorable trading environment to do that. That's why I want to return to what I said this morning. We're not talking about just sustainability of ecosystems for them. We're talking about the sustainability of the country themselves, these countries, and their future well-being. And then added to that, the planet heading to disaster now. Because right now, it's clear that we are not going to achieve any of the targets. We can't mass this over. The pledges are too small to achieve the 1.5 or even 2 degrees rise above pre-industrial level. So we have a tendency to restate the problem all the time. We know that we need to raise financing for renewable energy at scale. We know that we need to shift to renewable energy for electricity and transport. We know we have to decarbonize the industrial processes, particularly for production of cement and steel that are carbon intensive. We know we need to do sustainable agriculture. We know we need to cut deforestation. So these things are known. And those are the things that matter in the sustainability framework. But for all of those to happen, you have to have, from a developing world perspective, the ability to do those. In Guyana's case, as I said earlier this morning, we can do so now not because we love the oil and gas industry, and I hope that we can have that debate with Professor Sachs at some point in time when he said the world doesn't need oil from Guyana. But I'm not going to pursue that debate today. We have laid out how we have a sustainable framework for using our forests and the revenue earned from the sale of forest carbon to give our people access to energy, renewable energy. So we're helping to fund our energy transition from those resources and from the oil and gas resources. As I said before, triple install capacity and yet cut emissions by 70% by 2030. I'm here in India, and through the grant from the Indian government, we have a loan. We're buying 30,000 units, small solar units, to give every household in the hinterland, the indigenous people where they live, access to electricity. We're using it for adaptation purposes, for billions of dollars. So that's how we are mainstreaming it into our sustainability development agenda, so in Guyana's case. And we are going to ensure that we do our part in spite of us being a producer of oil and gas. But if you have any justice about climate issue, the existing producers have to make way now for some of the new producers because the world will still need the demand. And as Mr. Desai said, sustainable consumption too. If the world wants to decarbonize faster, it will cut demand for fossil fuel faster. And so sometimes we get lectures from people who are growing their demand all the time for fossil fuel or for energy, and then they lament the fate that it has to be supplied from fossil fuel, yet they're not providing the financing to introduce renewable energy at scale. So the debate has to continue, but the debate to search for solutions, not to posture. We have had too much posturing by different groups, and many have interests that they pursue. And in that posturing, we lose the search for solutions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Your Excellency, for your enriching words. It has been a privilege to host you, and we look forward to your leadership and your country's continued association with this summit and with TERI. I now have the pleasure to invite His Excellency Dr. Sultan Al Jaber, Special Envoy on Climate Change and COP28 President-Designate, UAE, to deliver the keynote address. Your Excellency, the floor is yours.
Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. It is indeed my pleasure to be with all of you here today and to be given the opportunity to speak at this year's World Sustainable Development Summit organized by the Energy and Resources Institute. TERI, and as India's premier independent environmental organization, has been convening this very important gathering for more than 2 decades. And during that period of time, this summit has made a meaningful contribution and a substantial one to the global sustainability agenda. And before I begin, allow me to thank Dr. Vibha Dhawan for inviting me to speak today, and it is always good to see you, especially after the very good meeting I had with you in Bangalore earlier this month. And as I look around this room, it gives me great pleasure to see so many friends and familiar faces. In fact, when I first arrived this morning to this very nice campus, it made me remember 2010. I came here in 2010 to receive an honorary doctorate from TERI University when I was the Chief Executive Officer of Masdar. It was indeed a great honor for me personally and a testament to the UAE leadership's commitment to embed the principles of sustainability into our development as a nation. Before I continue, I would like to recognize the leadership of Prime Minister Narendra Modi, who continues to guide India on its path to a prosperous and sustainable future. This great country is well on its way to becoming the 3rd largest economy in the world. And this makes it one of the largest consumers of energy. And as such, India's sustainable development is critical, not just for India, but for the whole world. India's goal of adding 500 gigawatt of clean energy in the next 7 years is a true and a powerful statement of intent. And as one of the largest investors in renewable energy, the United Arab Emirates and Masdar will explore all opportunities of partnership with India to contribute to its high growth, low carbon pathway. As India takes forward its presidency of the G20, the UAE supports India's focus on transformative actions for a cleaner, greener, and bluer future with just and sustainable development for all. And the theme of today's gathering, mainstreaming sustainable development and climate resilience, in my view, is a call to action for all of us. In fact, it is a call to action that will be central to our agenda at COP28. Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, the UAE takes on the role of hosting COP28 with humility, a deep sense of responsibility, and a great sense of urgency. We will aim to unite all parties around inclusive and transformational progress. And let me make one thing absolutely clear. The goal of keeping 1.5 alive is just non-negotiable. It is also clear that we can't continue business as usual. Continuing business as usual simply won't get us there. We need a true, comprehensive paradigm shift in our approach to mitigation, adaptation, finance, and loss and damage. On mitigation, we need to rapidly build the clean energy systems of tomorrow while making the energy systems of today much cleaner. We must triple renewable energy, double hydrogen production, expand nuclear power, improve battery storage, scale up and commercialize carbon capture, and enhance the implementation of efficiency across the board. And we need to accelerate an energy transition that leaves no one behind, particularly the 800 million people across the global south who have no access to energy today. We need to transform food systems that account for 1/3 of global emissions. Embrace agri-tech to feed a growing planet on a limited carbon budget. And enhance water use so that everyone on this planet has access to safe, clean drinking water. At COP28, transforming our food and water systems will be given the same attention as transitioning our energy and industrial systems. We need to advance on all fronts and at the same time. On adaptation, COP28 must conclude the global goal on adaptation and finalize agreement around doubling adaptation finance. And I know that TERI has been at the forefront of pushing for this goal, which will help protect vulnerable communities across the global south. Adaptation also means preserving all life on Earth, protecting biodiversity, natural ecosystems, and indigenous species. And as a nation, and as the COP28 presidency, we share India's firm belief that safeguarding and respecting nature is a fundamental obligation. The UAE has always embedded environmental stewardship and environmental protection and climate action into our development as a country. As we recognize that the health of the planet, the climate, and the humanity are deeply interconnected and essential for truly sustainable development. Ladies and gentlemen, the step change and the progress we need will require lots of capital. And that is not just billions. We need trillions. And we must make sure that this capital is available, and if it's available, it must be accessible, and if it is accessible, it must be affordable to those who need it. A key enabler will be the reform of the international financial institutions as well as the multilateral development banks. We must mobilize much more concessional finance to unlock more private sector capital and target investments where they are needed most. As such, scaling and accelerating climate finance will be one of the key goals for the COP28 presidency, and we will rally all relevant parties in an effort to make it happen. Distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, progressive climate action represents a true opportunity. In fact, it represents an immense opportunity. An opportunity to create millions of jobs and invent new sectors, create new businesses and industries. In fact, it will create the greatest leap in human development and prosperity since the first industrial revolution. Let's ensure that progress is truly inclusive and that no one is left behind. Let's keep 1.5 alive while putting an end to energy and water poverty. Let's unite around climate action that carries humanity forward. And let's prove that you can be pro-climate and pro-growth at the same time. In the months to come, myself and the COP28 team will continue to listen, consult, and engage with everyone. Everyone spanning from civil society, NGOs, indigenous peoples, the private sector, governments, women, and youth. Let's unite everyone around a COP of action, a COP for all, a COP of solidarity and unity. Let's remember that the world makes progress through partnership, not through polarization. And let's follow TERI's motto that the best way to predict the future is simply to create it. With that, allow me to say thank you very much for the opportunity, and let's get to work and create a sustainable future together. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency. We look forward to your leadership with the COP28 presidency and to engagement with UAE. We now have a message by the Honorable Prime Minister of India, Shri Narendra Modi. May I request the AV Console team to please flash the written message. I now invite Dr. Vibha Dhawan, Director General TERI, to kindly read out the message from the Honorable Prime Minister.
Thank you, Shelley. And we are definitely missing presence of the Honorable Prime Minister, and I wish there was possibility that we had got a video recorded message, but we can understand pressures on his time. And we would like to extend our thanks that he had sent us the message, which I'll read verbatim. It is most heartening to learn about World Sustainable Development Summit, WSDS 2023. This initiative by the Energy and Resources Institute, TERI, to deliberate upon the theme, mainstreaming sustainable development and climate resilience for collective action, is in consonance with the times we are in. Extolling the earth as mother, our scripture says, Mata Bhumi Putro Ehe Prithviya, meaning the earth is our mother and we are her children. The sentiment of Vasudhaiv Kutumbakam, or universal brotherhood, has constantly guided the nation and its people. With such a glorious culture and philosophy of lofty traditions of living in harmony with nature, it is only natural for India to remain at the forefront of global efforts for environmental protection. WSDS 2023 is being hosted at a time when India holds the presidency of G20, and it is no coincidence that Vasudhaiv Kutumbakam constitutes the theme of the duration of India's G20 presidency. This has enhanced the pride and glory associated with both the occasions. We firmly believe that development and nature can go hand in hand. With the objective of making sustainable development an integral part of everyday life, we launched Mission Life. The objective of this mission is to adopt a lifestyle for environment. Environment is today not just a global cause, but also a personal as well as collective responsibility for every individual. Environment conservation is a commitment and not compulsion for India. Human empowerment is impossible without a better environment, and the way forward is through collective rather than selectiveness. Our initiatives to adopt a healthier, cleaner lifestyle include upgrading infrastructure to encourage electric mobility, increased use of biofuel for transportation, leverage hydrogen as a fuel, convert waste to wealth, and water treatment plants to ensure clean rivers. We are striving to meet an increased portion of our demand for electricity from renewable and alternative sources of energy. Through latest technology and innovation, we are devising solutions to diverse urban challenges, particularly pollution and cleanliness. Be it through measures of upliftment and empowerment of poor, or encouraging organic farming, or protecting farmers from the vagaries of nature, we have adopted a multi-dimensional approach to chart a long-term roadmap for sustainable and environment-friendly lifestyle. The conferring of Sustainable Development Leadership Award on the occasion recognizes the contribution of global leaders from diverse fields towards the cause of sustainable development and environment. Best wishes for fruitful deliberations at WSDS 2023 and towards making our Mother Earth cleaner and greener for future generations. Thank you.
We now have two special announcements to make. The first announcement is on the Distinguished Alumni Award by the TERI School of Advanced Studies. May I invite Dr. Shailesh Nayak, Chancellor, TERI School of Advanced Studies, to say a few words about this new initiative and to present the citation to His Excellency Dr. Sultan Al Jaber, COP28 President-designate UAE and Special Envoy on Climate Change. Over to you, Dr. Nayak.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon to everybody. My greetings from TERI School of Advanced Studies. This school was set up essentially to create leaders who can implement sustainable development, various goals, how we can delink the energy use and development. So we are very happy that to announce the first Distinguished Alumni Award to His Excellency Dr. Sultan Al Jaber. He was awarded Doctor of Philosophy, honoris causa by TERI School of Advanced Studies, at that time called TERI University, in 2010, to recognize his efforts in spearheading renewable energy initiatives globally. As a President-designate of COP28, he is set to play a crucial global leadership role in leading the intergovernmental process, building consensus, and driving climate outcomes with a broad range of partners, including business and civil society, to raise ambitions. His Excellency Dr. Sultan Al Jaber is the Minister of Industry and Advanced Technology, has served as a Special Envoy for Climate Change for 2 terms, 2010 to 16 and 2020 to present, and played a proactive participatory role at an over 10 COPs, including the historic COP21 in 2015. He was instrumental in establishing the nation's renewable energy trajectory, making him the first CEO to hold the position of COP President. As a founding CEO of Mercer, he has overseen its mandate to accelerate the adoption of renewables within UAE, across the region, and globally. His Excellency Dr. Sultan Al-Jaber has championed the decarbonization strategies and low-carbon solutions. UAE has spent more than US 50 billion in renewable energy projects across 70 nations, with plan to invest at least another US $50 billion over the next 10 years. He is home to 3 of the largest and most affordable solar installations in the world. The TERI School of Research is very happy to announce the Distinguished Alumni Award to His Excellency Dr. Al-Jaber.
We now come to the second announcement, which is the launch of the report on an assessment of avoided CO2 emissions during construction, maintenance, and operation of national highways. This study was conducted by TERI, CSIR-IIP, and IORA. The study assessed the extent of CO2 that can be avoided per kilometers of national highways constructed. May we have a brief video on the study, please? Launch the report, please. With this, we now come to the final segment of the inaugural session, and I would like to request Dr. Vibha Dhawan to deliver the vote of thanks.
Thank you, Shelley, and I'd like to mention that the pen drive that has been given to you has the soft copy of this report. So I'm sure you'll like to read it. It's quite an interesting study. Well, as we are all set the ball rolling for the 22nd edition of the World Sustainable Development Summit, I would like to express my heartiest gratitude to our Honorable Prime Minister of India, Shri Narendra Modi ji, for the message and the kind words of encouragement. Distinguished guests on the dais, I thank you for gracing this occasion and being part of this journey of 3 days. I would like to extend my thanks to His Excellency, Dr. Bharat Jagdeo, Vice President, Republic of Guyana, Shri Bhupinder Yadav ji, Honorable Minister for Environment, Forest and Climate Change, His Excellency, Dr. Sultan Al-Jaber, Special Envoy on Climate Change and COP28, President-designate UAE, Mr. Nitin Desai, Chairman, the Energy and Resources Institute, and Dr. Sailesh Nayak, who is also our board, but Chancellor to TERI School of Advanced Studies. It's indeed a pride moment for TERI to be hosting an in-person summit after a long wait of 2 years when we had to organize the summit virtually due to the pandemic. I would like to express my gratitude for the support extended by our nodal ministry, that's Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, Government of India. On behalf of TERI and the WSDS team, I'll also like to thank all our partners for supporting WSDS 2023 and Act for Earth. Royal Norwegian Embassy, Bloomberg Philanthropies, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, Rockefeller Foundation, German Federal Ministry for the Environment, Nature Conservation, Nuclear Safety and Consumer Protection, IKI, European Union, World Bank, Tata Chemical, TERI School of Advanced Studies, International Energy Agency, Carnegie Climate Governance Initiative, Johnson Controls, Capgemini, and McKinsey. I thank you all for your support. While these are the partners for WSDS, I would like to celebrate or take opportunity as a Thanksgiving Day to all our partners who have made possible for TERI to emerge as an important, not just a think tank, but an organization known for research, policy implementation in its long journey of 50 years. And we do look forward to support and encouragement from all our partners as we go further beyond 50 years. And we will be celebrating our 50th anniversary sometime in June this year, and of course we'll have a year of celebrations from there. I would like to thank our International Steering Committee members who have guided us on this journey. I would also like to thank the Advocacy Committee of WSDS and our outreach partners. Towards the end, I would like to thank the entire TERI team who worked tirelessly towards this summit. And yes, it was not that simple, and especially this year when it is held in person as well as virtually. So you are organizing in a way 2 summits, so thank you to the entire team for taking this challenge. And before I conclude, I would also like to share that this year we will be announcing the theme and tentative dates of the next summit at the valedictory session. And we do look forward to your presence, and we are giving you adequate time to plan and be with us next year as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Dhawan, for your kind words. I would finally request the speakers to come forward for a group photo.